The complete Stranger Things timeline explained. Warning: spoilers ahead for Stranger Things Season 5. With the fifth and final season wrapping up the story, the Stranger Things timeline is so twisty and complex that it needs considerable examination. Season 1 began in November 1983, with Season 5 story set 4 years later in 1987. However, Stranger Things series finale ending jumped to the spring of 1989 for the epilogue sequence. That said, plenty of history is alluded to throughout Stranger Things, many seasons spanning from the foundation of Hawkins in the 1800s to the 1970s, when Eleven and the rest of the younger characters were born. Stranger Things Season 5 addressed some of this history, particularly by focusing on the villain who spans the entire show, Vecna. Vecna's plans have been in place from early in Stranger Things timeline, with some events from further back influencing them. With all of this in mind, here is the complete timeline of Netflix Stranger Things, broken down into an accessible series of events. Long before Hawkins was overrun with Demogorgons, the Mind Flayer, and the infection of the Upside Down, a number of things had happened leading up to the events of the Stranger Things timeline. A lot of Stranger Things Season 2 focused on the backstory of Hawkins' lab and the government's involvement in producing superpowered individuals like Eleven. This is what ultimately led Eleven to discover that there were more people like her, such as Kali. Eleven spent her early life inside Hawkins' lab, where Eleven honed her superpowers in addition to being experimented on and attempting to spy on the Russians. But all of that contributed to her escaping the facility and meeting Mike and his friends. Stranger Things Season 1 primarily focuses on finding and rescuing Will Byers, with a secondary plot on dealing with Eleven in the Hawkins lab. Most of the season takes place over the course of 1 week, with a short time jump at the end of the season. Almost a year goes by between Stranger Things Seasons 1 and 2, but important events still take place in the interim. Stranger Things Season 2 takes place entirely in 1984, as do some parts of Season 3. While Will isn't kidnapped this time around, he is taken over by the Mind Flayer, and everything that happened this year sets the stage for the rest of the series, which could lead to some major Stranger Things Season 5 deaths as the final battle begins. Stranger Things Tales from 85 is set between Seasons 2 and 3 of the main show, meaning the story of the animated spin-off takes place during the winter of 1985. Based on the timeline and canon events, Tales from 85 will likely take place at some point in January or February of 1985, which is shortly after the Snowball Dance at the end of Season 2. That said, Tales from 85 is rewriting Stranger Things lore by introducing a new character named Nikki. She will join the core characters as they come together to investigate something from the Upside Down that begins threatening Hawkins. The animated spin-off is set to release April 23, 2026 on Netflix. Stranger Things Season 3 takes the series in a new direction, not only taking place in the summer, but also prominently featuring the Russians as Stranger Things villains for the first time. It also focuses on things happening primarily in Hawkins rather than the Upside Down. Season 3 was more about uncovering a conspiracy, and while it took place over the course of 1 week, again, a lot happened. Stranger Things Season 4 takes place 5 months after the events of Season 3. This season binds all of the prior 3 together, as well as introducing other elements like Vecna's backstory that took place well before Stranger Things Season 1. As with the other seasons, Stranger Things Season 4 takes place over the course of around a week. The Stranger Things timeline may already be filled with a lot to remember, but there's plenty left of the story for the 5th and final season. Season 5 takes place 18 months after Season 4, placing the events of Stranger Things Season 5 in the fall of 1987. The main events of Stranger Things Season 5 Volume 1 begin on November 3, 1987, just days before the anniversary of Will's disappearance. The events of Stranger Things Season 5 Volume 2 and the first half of the series finale then occur on November 6, 1987, which is the anniversary of when everything started 4 years prior. Before Stranger Things series finale ends, the show features one more time jump with the Stranger Things epilogue taking place in May 1989. The sequence occurs on graduation day for Mike, Dustin, Will, Lucas, and Max, as some of the older characters reunite in Hawkins for the big day. Before concluding the story, Stranger Things hints at the fate of all major characters as they enter new chapters of their lives.